many of you, got what we wanted Sunday evening. Started filtering out that I guess around 7 o'clock or so, something's going down. So, of course, had to stay by the phone and see what that was. I pretty much knew it meant Grantham was going to be let go. I didn't know about Hevesy until the report came out from Feldman there. But moves that ultimately needed to be made. Threw out an episode last night. If you guys want to check it out there, give them a lot of my initial thoughts. So I can share some of those here, but as we do here on Spaces, it's more about you guys sounding off here. So let me get James in here. Or there we go. J. Craig, 67 here. I see that it was James Bond of Project Management, I guess. You there? There we go.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. I think the connection got lost. Yeah, I have to come back around. What's up, Top Dog Ben? What's up, Top Dog Ben?
Good morning, Dave. How you doing? You can hear me?
I got you loud and clear.
All right, good morning, man. Hey, I've been waiting on you all morning, man. I've been up since 5 o'clock messing with this Twitter stuff, waiting on you. I think $1 short and a day late, Dave. $1 short and a day late. We shouldn't have to go through a tough season we went through to wait for these answers that we need, Dave. I don't know, Dave. I don't know what this gonna do, because I don't trust Mullen into making the correct hires that he need to make to go out and get the people that we need to have a successful program change. I think he's gonna pull one of his friends or a grad assistant like he did, or somebody he have in waiting. I don't think he's gonna make the tough decision to go get someone that's gonna tell him that, hey, Dan, this is not the route we go. This is what we're gonna do, to give him something instead of his friends with him. So I want to get your opinion on that.
Yeah, as far as that part goes, I mean, I do like the replacement hires he's made so far for the most part. You bring in David Turner when Sunseri leaves. That was an upgrade, at least for Florida. I know Sunseri goes on to Alabama and recruits well, but who doesn't do that? So I thought, at least for their role at Florida, Turner was an upgrade over Sunseri. Tim Brewster being the tight end coach, I mean, one of the biggest best reputations out there for a tight end coach. And then the DB coaches this year probably can't. I mean, I think they have improved from last year's play. Tackling still an issue there, but still, for the most part, not taking Saturday night into account at South Carolina, because you did have your miscommunications there. But your miscommunication, for the most part, has been solid on the back end with these new coaches. I think McGriff and Jules have done some good things this year. So I'd lean that it's better this year. Maybe call it a wash in the end, since you had those guys, the previous guys, a bit longer. So, but of course, those are the assistant changes, and not necessarily the defensive coordinator, and a much bigger role. So now I don't think it'll be a buddy hire. Now, going to your point, too little, too late. What do you get in this scenario? If everybody knows Dan Mullen is coaching for his job in 2022, what type of coach can you bring in here?
That's another question. You're right.
Yeah, how. But also at the same time, I think you can look at it both ways. It's, hey, if you're the guy that comes in here and turns this thing around, it sets you up. It sets you up for a big job. So, yeah, Florida will pay if the recent contracts we've seen for some of these assistant coaches. Florida will pay. Todd Grantham is probably overpaid for the production Florida got out of you, but Florida will pay the defensive coordinator. So I don't think money would be an issue either. It would just be about, does somebody want to take that chance? And at a program like Florida, and knowing the offense will probably still be mostly taken care of, the defensive coordinator can come in here and think, that's the step that I need to get a bigger job. So I get that there may be guys that shy away from it, but I don't think for the most part guys will. I think they will look at it as an opportunity to come in here and make a name for themselves. And you come in and turn this defense around right away, people will take notice. And whatever your ultimate goals are, those will, that puts it on fast track.
So my question is, your message to the fan base is because I don't have any trust in Mullen right now. So what your whole statement is your message to the fan base is just sit back and trust Mullen to make the correct hire at defensive coordinators. That's your message to the fan base. Because if you say yes, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to calm down and trust him.
I'll say, given history of his past hires at Florida, I say trust him to make a good defensive coordinator hire. I will say if, and we'll see how this goes along the way. We'll see who he has to choose from. It could be where guys are shied away. Guys don't want to come in for 1 year. I don't think that'll be the case, but it could be. And Mullen's hard to work with too. We know that. That's no surprise. That could shy away people too. But I think given his history of hires at Florida so far, upgrading some of the replacements that he's had to make, I say trust him to make the hire. I just hope the pool of candidates that he has will be somebody that he really wants, and he's not having to settle because there's just not a lot to choose from. I think there will be, but I'm not 100% sure on that angle.
Okay, I got two more questions, Dave, and then I'm gonna get off here. The first question is the status of Anthony Richardson, and the second question is, if he loses to Florida State, is he gone?
Anthony Richardson. Yeah, I got you. Anthony Richardson, I think, should be cleared this week. I think he'll be good there. So he'll probably, I would assume, get a start versus Sanford. If everything, the latest I heard is he'll be okay this week. I'm 50-50 on Mullen if he comes back next year anyway after losing to South Carolina. I was assuming that he doesn't lose the last 4 games: South Carolina, Sanford, Missouri, FSU. Once that loss happened, I don't think anything is safe as far as Dan Mullen goes. You lose to FSU, then look, I'm ready to move on right now anyway. If I'm making a decision, definitely if you lose to FSU, I'm going. I don't know how this administration will see it. I really don't. I think they could be using these coaching moves right now as enough, kind of like how they did last year with the.
That's what I think.
You got rid of 2.
That's what I think. They put the Band-Aid with these 2 coaching moves. They put the Band-Aid on it. That's what I think.
But lose to FSU, then all bets are off. I think it can get pretty ugly at that point. I wouldn't say he's back. I wouldn't say he's fired. I just don't know how. I mean, look, there were some buttons pressed this past weekend. Some heavy boosters were speaking their mind, and that's why a lot of these moves that we saw, I think, were sped up in a way. I don't think Dan Mullen wanted to make any moves in the season as far as making coaching changes. They were going to happen. Okay. I just don't think they were going to happen yesterday until Florida loses to South Carolina and some big money started talking.
All right, Dave.
Lose to FSU and even more big money starts talking. So
yeah, I know we can't lose that. It was sad losing to South Carolina, man. I turned the game off on the first quarter. I was so upset with the everything, man. It's just been a tough season, man. My Gators losing, the Lakers losing, and my Mad Video game team losing. So I just having a tough season this year.
All right, man. It'll bounce back. It'll bounce back, I promise.
All right. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you for everything you're doing, Dave, and I sure enough appreciate you.
All right, man. Go Gators.
Go Gators.
Can you hear me?
Got you good.
Okay. Sorry about that. I was having some technical issues on my end. How you doing this morning, David?
I'm good. Trying to stay warm.
Man, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think these moves, and I know everybody's already said it, but it's too little, too late. And I think the thing when the announcement came out of firing Todd Grantham and all this other stuff, the first thing I thought about was 2022.
Yeah.
Our schedule next year does not set us up for success. This was the year. I mean, even though we played Alabama and Georgia's really good, this was the year to take a proverbial step forward. Even though we would have had, potentially had 2 losses, this was the year to take a step forward. Our schedule next year, I'll be honest with you, unless Dan Mullen becomes David Blaine and pulls something out that we've just never seen before, I have no idea how he's going to survive this. That is just, I mean, we play at Texas A&M next year. We have Utah next year. Like, our schedule is tough and weird for next year. And I mean, for a man who came out with an unbelievable offense in 2020, put up the ridiculous numbers and then made the change to 2021 and still did pretty decent with the personnel he had. I just don't understand how he couldn't make changes everywhere else. Like, I just don't get it.
Yeah, as you said, that's one reason I would have loved the defensive coordinator move last year. You're retooling at the same time both sides of the ball to kind of set up something for 2022 because most people expected a step back this year. Anyway, now don't get me wrong, you still got to win games, and if there were the things that we could usually count on from Dan Mullen, this year still would have been pretty good. But you still got your retooled offense. Then you have a defense that's kind of learning their way under a new defensive coordinator this year, and it was set up better for 2022 next year. But as you said, you look at the schedule next year: Utah, Kentucky, South Florida, Tennessee. If we take this season and translate it to next season, just right now by what we know, 3 of those games are losable. Utah, Kentucky, Tennessee. And so we already know at least a new defensive coordinator is going to be in, trying to grind his way to a early part of the schedule that's very tough. And who knows, maybe head coach at some point too, but we at least know defensive coordinator. And then we know the offensive issues this year. So you're going to be trying to get back on track on offense as well versus Utah, Kentucky, and Tennessee in 3 of the first 4 games. So if Dan Mullen is back, we know for sure 2022 is, the hot seat is scalding. And it's going to be a tough start. You can build a whole lot of momentum off of that, but you start losing to Utah, Kentucky, and Tennessee, and some kind of combo of that. It's you may be down early.
Yeah, I think the other thing I'm going to take a very good look at this offseason is the transfer portal as far as who leaves and who comes back, because that's going to tell basically everything you need to know about 2022. That's going to be your telltale sign right there.
Yeah, you can definitely expect, even with the defensive coordinator change, whether you like Todd Grantham or not. Of course, the natural attrition of the transfer portal is going to come into play. So he probably won't be the only one either. I think more assistant firings are coming, or not renewal of contracts are coming. And that's going to be on the defensive side of the ball too. So I think we'll see. We'll see. Christian Robinson is, of course, the big name that comes up. Yeah, you got the new deal last year with the flirtation with Michigan and the like. But he is a Todd Grantham disciple. So what does that mean for him? And would he jump at the opportunity to get away from Todd Grantham and kind of make a name for himself and stay at Florida? And would that help him? How much of the linebacker plays on Christian Robinson? Is it over so much? This is Todd Grantham's defense, and it's still more on him. I've heard rumblings on both sides that Robinson wants to do some different things, but kind of overruled by Grantham. Don't know how true that is.
We got 3 games to figure it out.
There you go. Yeah. Well, you're right. What do we see from here on out? And some changes there. Of course, how much can you change in the season with 3 games left, and how much your guys going to buy in and all that stuff as well. So kind of hard to tell, hard to get a gauge on that, but you hope to see some different things. And look, we're not going to tell this week, with Sanford. I mean, you could tell the want to of the team. That's the only thing you'll be able to tell this weekend. But Missouri, FSU, you'll be able to tell a little more of the coaching side of things when Florida plays those two games.
Well, the thing I'm looking for against Sanford, just schematically, what are we doing on defense? Like, I mean, schematically, we've been awful, and that's the thing that tackling is one thing, and coverage and all this other great stuff, but schematically, we've been awful, and that is the thing that I can look before the play even snaps and say, yeah, this isn't going to go well.
I mean, I was sitting there in the stands in Columbia and just watching the players run on and off the field and the defensive line. I mean, it was, a second or two, and this is a lot of what we saw last year, a second or two before the ball snapped, and, 9 of the 11 players are looking at the sideline.
Right.
And it's just hopefully – I've been told Todd Grantham's defense is very, very difficult. It's very it's a lot. They're too complex. It's an NFL defense.
It's nickel.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and there you go. He hasn't adjusted with the times either, and he's made it too difficult, and no adjustments there either. But maybe definitely a more simplified approach from here on out for the rest of the season.
Gotcha. I appreciate the time, Dave.
Hey man, thanks. Mm-hmm. All right, let's see. Kobe.
What's up, Dave?
Hey, man.
I've got a question for you. Can anyone name one thing that Dan Mullen does well right now? Any redeemable quality? Because as time has gone forward, we've kind of fallen back to, well, at least he can coach, at least he can scheme them up. We just all watched the South Carolina game. They had one of the worst rush defenses in the conference, and we literally don't run it well into the first and second quarter of that game and let the game get out of control when we're supposedly really quite good at running the football. So as things stand today, and we're talking about everyone's, it's a Band-Aid with the firings, and I completely agree with that. But the common denominator right now seems to be Dan Mullen. And I'm struggling to come up really with one thing that he can hang his hat on right now at the University of Florida and says he does that really well.
Yeah, that's why Florida's 4-5 right now. Of course I'm big on recruiting, but we know that's probably the biggest issue, but it's been everything else that's kind of fallen by the wayside. That's why Florida's 4-5. The things you could count on, the things Dan Mullen did so well, the scheming and the play calling. We saw it toward the beginning of the year as well, what he could scheme up versus Bama and scheme up versus Tennessee. But once that run game has gotten shut down this year, look, we knew Florida was going to have to focus on the run game this year. Now, I didn't think as much. I didn't think the quarterbacks would struggle this much. But we knew this offense was going to be built on the run game. And once defenses saw it on tape, once defenses adjusted and stopped, mainly the quarterback run as well, it's just it hasn't been there. And Dan Mullen doesn't have an answer. He can't scheme up anything. I don't think there's a lot of confidence right now from the players. I don't think there's a lot of confidence in the coaching staff right now and what they're able to do. And you're right. There's not really anything you can point to right now, whether it be on the field, off the field, that you can point to that says, all right, this team does that well. There's not one right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree. And as I look at 22, I agree with the schedule analysis. It's gonna be tough. You don't know where the mindset of the team is. You don't know where this 22 class is gonna finish up. It just seems like you're prolonging the inevitable if we don't pull the trigger on axing Dan. And I mean, I won't say publicly that I want us to lose to Florida State or Missouri, but it's tough to watch us if we squeak by in those games, and that in and of itself extends Mullen into 22. We're looking at having to deal with this for another calendar year before we can go find a new coach. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, man.
I just got a strong feeling why everybody's so hard on Dan Mullen right now. He has a bad year. He had a good year last year. He had a bad year this year, but it's just a couple of changes that he needed to make to actually get back to the source that he was at. At the end of the day, it's coaching. I coach football, so I know about football. Some years you have bad teams. Some years your staff is bad. it doesn't translate every year to the present year or to the previous year. 2022 recruiting class is good. It's good enough to do what he needs to do. As long as he bring in the right coordinator, defense coordinator, I feel, and the right offensive line coordinator, I feel like everything could be totally different. It's not necessarily the defense. It's a schematic like everybody been saying, but I'm not big on just saying, hey, let Dan go. Dan's the best play caller in college football right now. So I don't think it's a Dan problem.
Yeah, I mean, and part of it is, this year, you're right, this year has really fallen by the wayside. But it dates back to the end of last year as well, and not getting the team, ready for a lot of these games to go play. And I think ultimately what a lot of people are pointing to is the way the recruiting has been since he's taken over, where you're at in the hierarchy. Like, where's the hope that Florida can get to the level that they're at? And when you look at recruiting, I don't think it's there. And now you're having to make all these changes to kind of make up for it. And I still don't know if you can get to that point just because of the coaching changes. Now, I do agree, if Dan Mullen is bought in and, maybe just a bad period of time right here, if he can fully buy back in, if he can fully get in, he is one of the best play callers in college football. But right now, we're not seeing that on a consistent enough level. Of course, the biggest change had to be on defense. Last year, that wasn't the issue. Even when Florida's offense would have a quote-unquote bad game, it was still good enough if the defense was good enough. And we've seen that at times this year as well. The Bama game, the LSU game, for example, your offense was still good enough even with the issues, and it falls back to defense, and that's why we see the change being made. Right now, it's just there's not a consistency at every level right now that gives a lot of fans hope.
And I got no question. So, what do you think about Marcus Freedom and Dan Lanford for a defense coordinator?
I don't see those guys leaving their current schools for what could be, a hot seat for Dan Mullen here. I don't see those guys necessarily leaving their situations for that. Now, if a new coach was coming in and you bringing in a defensive coordinator, maybe you could steal one of those guys in a situation like that. But leaving their current situation where it's a pretty good situation, I don't see them taking a chance. Those type of coaches taking the chance to come to Florida and just try and to save Dan Mullen. I don't see that happening. It's going to be some, I think, young up-and-comer. I don't think it's going to be like one of those hot defensive coordinator names at the and plus, I don't see. I mean, those guys are in really good spots right now. I don't think you leave that for even if Florida was just making a defensive coordinator change and Mullen's job status was very safe. I don't think those guys leave their current jobs for this. But it's going to be it asks a lot of high-level defensive coordinators to leave some cush jobs right now to try and come save Dan Mullen. All right. Bring a few more of you in here. All right, Sean Swag. There we go.
Hey, how you doing today?
Good. How about you, man?
I'm doing well. Just pretty beat up over the Gators game, of course.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. Do we think Emory is gonna stay another year? And if he does AR beat him out, like flat out?
I don't see Emory back next year. I think the way this year's played out, I think this was the year. I have long thought that this was going to be Emory Jones' only year at Florida. Either he plays so good and goes to the NFL, or it plays a little bit like it has this year, and Richardson ends up taking over and he transfers out and goes somewhere else. And the latter is probably what we're going to see here. I don't think Emory Jones is back at Florida next year. I think this would be AR's job. Next year with the young quarterbacks that's on the roster too, Del Rio, Kitna, hopefully still Evers coming in. So we'll see. That's how it stands now. Of course, we don't know any more coaching changes. If I'll say if Dan Mullen's still head coach at Florida. So can't if that doesn't happen, then who knows what happens at the quarterback positions and stuff like that. But as it stands right now, I'd say Emory would be on his way out, and we'd be looking at AR taking over next year.
Sweet. Thank you, Dave. Just one more quick question. If we do move on from Dan, I don't know how I feel about that yet. I still think we just need to wait and see. I do like Dan. I feel like everybody likes Dan. But if we do move on, what would be like top 2 possibilities out there of a head coach replacement?
I kind of have a rule there. I'll wait till something happens before I sound off on that. I have no idea where I look my top guy that I actually think would be attainable. Of course, there's dream names out there, but got to put some reality to it as well. So, respectfully, if it happens, then I'll get into it like that. But for now, pretty much like I did for the whole defensive coordinator thing, I'll wait for something to happen before I start talking names, and we'll go forward from there. But thanks for listening, and hopefully that didn't shove you off. I'm not trying to shove it off or anything like that. But I'll wait for it to happen before I get into that that deep.
Sweet, thank you, Dave. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey, man.
Hey, man, I may be reaching right here, man, but I would like to see him pursue Muschamp to come in as defensive coordinator for us.
I don't see that one happening.
No.
His time at Florida, head coach. I don't think you return back as an assistant coach. He's at Georgia, of course, where he played. A lot of connections there. And if I'm not mistaken, I think somebody told me him and his family's building a house up there in Athens. I think he's probably still getting a cushy paycheck from South Carolina at the same time right now. So there's a whole lot of factors I don't see, mainly because I just don't, you don't return back to a school that fired you as a head coach and come back as an assistant. It doesn't happen in the coaching world. And so would it be awesome to have Will Muschamp as the defensive coordinator? Absolutely. But there's a lot of factors there. I don't see that one playing out.
Yeah, I feel that, man. I live in Knoxville, so I've been getting crap ever since the Kentucky game, man. So it sucks, but I just miss the U.S. defenses,
you can still
man.
hang your hat on. We somehow beat Tennessee with the way everything's looking right now.
Oh, I know. Trust me, I use that all the time. I'm like, y'all can't never get out of our shadow to save y'all life. But I just miss some UF defenses, man. That Hargraves, Keanu Hill defense. Man. Sheesh.
That's what I was saying last night. You bring those names up, and that's what I was saying with the move now away from Todd Grantham. I mean, Florida lost DBU status under Todd Grantham. That right there should tell you pretty much all you need to know. If you're not a Florida fan, everybody still knew about DBU. Everybody still knew about Florida and defensive backs.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That's completely went away. That's not even that's an afterthought now at Florida.
That's a lot of the conversations I have with people up here. I'm like, you look at Florida, even though we've not, even when our offenses had the down year or down seasons, we've always been statistically known for one of the top-rated defenses in the nation. Defense is what we were known for. That's like our chip on our shoulder. That's our swagger right there. So just seeing it, how it's been the past 2 seasons, man,
Yeah, it's not hard to have a good defense at Florida with the athletes you can recruit. Look, that goes back to in-state recruiting a bit. The guys that you can get in-state, you can build. The athleticism that's in the state, you can build a really good defense with, and that's by the wayside there as well. So, the move needed to be made last year. Hopefully, not too little, too late. But I think that's the feeling a lot of us get, just because the signs were there. There were way too many signs of why keep Todd Grantham.
So what do you think about Gene Chizik?
I would not hate the hire. I'm more in the camp of I'd like a young up-and-comer trying to make his name for himself. Doug Belt would be my top choice. Their defensive coordinator at Houston was West Virginia DB coach. I believe he recruited Florida for West Virginia. Think I was heard as well that Kirby Smart wanted to hire him as a defensive back coach away from West Virginia, or when Holgorsen left West Virginia. But he ended up going to be defensive coordinator at Houston under Dana Holgorsen. But from Valdosta area, knows the South, young up-and-comer. I'd like to go that route. But Gene Chizik, I had him on the podcast over the summer, asked him about what it would take for him to get back into coaching. He said it would have to be the right fit. It'd have to be the perfect fit. So ever since all this talk, of course, I think we all knew, especially after the LSU game, I think we all knew Grantham was probably going to be gone before that game anyway. But that game happened. It was kind of the nail in the coffin. And, of course, defensive coordinator talk starts ramping up. I start asking around, and Gene Chizik would listen. If Dan Mullen made a call to Gene Chizik, that conversation would probably go on for a while. So that he'd be near the top of the list. He wouldn't be at the top. I would like to hire, but I think recruiting's still a big part of this, and I still think you need that young, relatable coordinator to make a big difference. And I think Gene Chizik could recruit well at the same time. I don't think the game has left him just because he's an analyst and been away from the game. He said on the podcast he still keeps up with it, coaching clinics, all that stuff during the offseason, so he can keep up with how college football is moving just in case he does get back into it. But I think there's two ways to think about it: the young up-and-comer or the experienced guy who's had a lot of SEC experience. He's been around the game. He's from Florida. Gene Chizik knows the expectations. He hears it from the fan base, week in and week out now, being a TV analyst. So he definitely would be near the top of my list. All right, let's see. Go ahead.
My bad, man. One more thing, shifting kind of towards more of the head coaching position. I see, like in one of the Facebook groups I'm in, they're always talking about like with these past few games, just Mullen's energy, especially with the press conferences. It looks like he's mentally and physically checked out of being the head coach. It looks like his energy is just super low. Doesn't really have a lot of the same energy he came in with. What's your opinions and thoughts on that?
All we can really do is go by what it looks like, and that's exactly what it looks like. Now, is it true? Is it not true? Who knows? But that's on the surface, that's what it looks like. And a lot of people notice it. It's not just somebody out there spouting off and being loud about it. It's a lot of people noticing it and putting it out there. And there's some truth to it. I think that we go back, and I think COVID really, really, really took a lot out of him. The COVID year last year, and I know Josh Pate has said it on his podcast, and a lot of other people out there, and we've talked about it as well. The whole NFL talk, and if it was real, and Dan Mullen maybe thought he had a chance of going to the NFL, maybe checked out because he thought he was on his way out. Well, okay, if that's the case, then maybe it's hard to check back in, and maybe the thought of not being here crept in too far, and it's hard to check back in. It's hard to get back, fully buy into what it takes. I think this year probably caught him by surprise a little bit. In no way, no coach thinks their team's going to go out there and look the way Florida has, but I honestly do think this year has caught him by surprise a little bit. I don't think he saw at any point Florida being a 500, 4-5 team at this point in the season. And I think it's caught him by surprise. I think it's weighed on him. And, of course, everything else that comes along with being the head coach of Florida, and then the pressure that's coming from the fan base and all these press conferences and stuff, probably a little irritated. So, look, Monday right now? We got an email Saturday morning for media. They are now, the press conferences on Mondays, I don't know about any other time of the week, are going to be in person. Dan Mullen's Monday press conference will be in person. So that keeps me out of it. I won't be going from Jacksonville to Gainesville for a 30-minute press conference. So that's the bad part about it. I know a lot of people were tired of the Zoom, but it did involve a little more people to get there for these press conferences. So maybe I can work something out to where I can show up there Monday during the season. But as of right now, no more Zoom press conferences for Dan Mullen on Mondays, and it will be in person. So, of course, today will be big with him discussing I mean, here's another thing. How does he react today? I mean, he's going to sit here and now have to talk about Grantham and Hevesy being let go. And so one more event, I guess you could say, of how people are going to read Dan Mullen's body language and his remarks and what he says with this tough situation. You know, it's tough for him having to now make changes of a coach who's been with him for 20, 21 years in John Hevesy. Of course, they're close and friendship, a bond over those 20 years. And now Todd Grantham as well. Dan Mullen has been questioned a whole lot. I don't think he saw that coming. He had some early success in 18 and 19, and now a barrage of questions about the future of this Florida program. And I think it's happened so fast that I think he doesn't know how to take it, and I think we see that play out.
Yeah, most definitely. I feel like we got 3-4 games left. I would really like to see him come out, like especially with how everything's turned out this season. I mean, yeah, we're on a down season, and after firing 2 coaches, I would like to see him come out with some energy and getting the team back on that ball of energy and just, you feel me, just playing to that Florida standard that we're used to seeing, like not coming out and feeling sorry for yourself and hanging your lip, so to speak. That's just what I would want to see out of the last couple games we got left on the season.
Yeah, you hope this team can still buy in and find something to play for, but it looks really, really difficult right now of getting this team to buy in. But hopefully so, and can end the season on some kind of high note. And look, Missouri and FSU, after this past Saturday against South Carolina, those aren't gimme games anymore. I know a lot of us assumed, myself included, Florida's just going to go out there and end the season 4-0. That's not the case anymore. If Florida doesn't care to go out there and play, then those games are big-time potential losses. Hey, Swag.
Hey, Dave. First of all, let me just say, how cool is this? You got half of Ben Hill Griffin Stadium on a call, so good for you, man. But I think this is for sure a sign that Mullen is going to be around next year. I mean, obviously he could tank, and you could say, this should have been done a while back. But I think obviously the powers that be that made this happen could have got rid of Mullen if they needed to or wanted to. And maybe it was an ultimatum of, it's either them or you. And, are you willing to make the changes that are required? And maybe that type of a conversation was had, and we got to hope so. But the other thing I'd say is a lot of people are talking about the schedule for next year. I think actually, well, first of all, the schedule doesn't change no matter who's here. But if you look at the schedule, 6 of the first 7 games are in the Swamp. So we got to go to Tennessee, and we open up with Utah. But it actually sets up pretty good. Now, you got back-to-back Georgia and Texas A&M later in the season. But 6 of the 7 games, first 7 games are in the Swamp. And so, I think there's a chance here. You get Samford. Obviously, you'd rather do this now than before traveling to Missouri. So, you get one tune-up game, and then you try to finish strong, and hopefully you carry that into the next year. Because, again, like I said, I think the signs are at this point, unless he just absolutely tanks, that he's going to be around next year, and he's given an opportunity to rebuild things by improving the defense, which has been the biggest problem, and improving recruiting. If you look at our recruiting rankings, offensive line is the lowest ranked unit. So he's kind of addressing the 2 major pain points of the fan base, or at least maybe somebody within the organization said, hey, let's take these 2 worst situations and let's give Mullen one more shot. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I spoke on that a little bit last night. Definitely the 2 positions that need to be made. I'm still surprised that the Hevesy one happened at this point in the season. I thought with the background, the relationship those guys have, if that move was going to be made, that would be one that was not going to be made during the season, definitely after the season there. So I was caught by surprise on that one a bit. Kind of knew the Grantham one was coming, but was when the tweet came out from Bruce Feldman, when I saw Hevesy's name included, I was like, okay, that's a change I didn't expect to make there. But all right, I got plenty of you guys waiting to get in here. So let me let you in. Try and make it quick. We've been going pretty long now. I'll try to get everybody in here who's been waiting. All right, a few more of you are in here right now. Yep. Hey, Tyler.
Hey, I just got one real quick comment more than a question, but after every game, you see the players go on Twitter and they tweet, I love this team and I'll die on this team and this, that, and the other. It's like, where's that emotion on the sideline? I mean, the last thing a Tim Tebow or Brandon Spikes is going to do after a loss is going to make a Facebook status. I mean, to me, that just shows how weak we are mentally as a team. And I guess I would just like to see that emotion on the field and instead of on Twitter.
Yeah, I know. Mabu Diabate was one of the ones that came out there, and I know just by knowing him, he does go out there and play his hardest. He's playing out of position. I mean, he's him at linebacker should have never happened at all. Somebody I expected to take a step this year, and he is better than what he was last year, but now you can just clearly see playing out of position. And he's one of the guys I know who says, this team's going to stick together and all that. And Emory Jones retweets it and stuff, especially from the quarterback position. And I agree. And I hate to read into body language too much. Not everybody's going to be Tim Tebow, just the rah type and fiery. That's, Kyle Trask wasn't really that either. You saw it here and there. But a lot of guys lead, by example, and their play is what, is the leadership part of that. And, I agree. You don't see a lot of fire from this team. And look, it's hard for a team that's 4-4, 4-5 to sit there and, play with a lot of fire and passion and show it over and over again. There's not a lot to be excited about there when you have this record that you have. So, honestly, I'm at the point now where I wouldn't mind if the players were off social media altogether. I think it's, when things are going good, it's a good thing. When things are going bad, we start pointing to a lot of things with players on social media. And, of course, it got ramped up last week when the team's supposed to be in a bunker mentality and, they're out there on social media and stuff. I know that, caught some people's eye and stuff when the team's supposed to be focused, on a game. But, they have lives too. I'm not saying they can't be on social media or either. But, you see it. And right now, it's just going to get put under a microscope of where this team is at. So when you see them on social media, of course, it's going to be, sometimes misconstrued. They're going to be kids. They're going to be college kids. But you see programs out there that at least during the season, they're not on there on social media. And Dan Mullen, I get, he trusts his players with that decision. And look, it blew up. Saturday night versus South Carolina when you had players watching the game. Zach Goodall put it out there. You had a couple players, freshman players, watching the game and putting their comments out and kind of laughing when things were going on during the game. You don't want to see that. So right now, just because things don't look good, we're going to put an eye on social media and kind of criticize that portion of it too. Fair or unfair, but it is going to be part of it.
Yeah, and I will say Diabate is the exception for me because, like you said, he does play hard, and he is one of those guys that gives it his all. But, when Emory says stuff like that, and then you look at him on the sideline and he's just sulking with his head down after every mistake he makes, it's just like, man, I don't need a Twitter post. We believe in you. We want you to be good. Nobody wants you to be bad. But the energy on Twitter versus the sideline there's just a massive disconnect there, and I just think it's a big problem. But I appreciate it, Dave. I'll get off of here.
All right, thanks, Tyler. All right, who's in here now that hasn't? All right, let's see. All right. I think Gary, I brought you in here. There were Sweet J.
Good morning.
Hey,
I had checked out Saturday evening. I didn't even want to talk about Florida football at all.
I know, man.
Until I got that headline, I'm like, okay, let's go. I'm like, whether they forced them or not, I'm glad it had to be done. I'm with you, Dave. Let's get us a little young guy in there, young DC, somebody who can who can get us fiery. And I'm just hoping going forward, I'm just praying. Because, sometimes, when you do make these moves, you actually want to know, like, okay, was it really his decisions that was messing everything up? Like, and like, are we that trash on defense, or is it really just his bad play calling? And the other assistants are like, man, we know we could do a lot better, but he's just hindering us from doing what we could do. Like, I'm just hoping that when we let his butt, like that, now that he's gone, whoever takes whoever runs the defense going forward, like, are we gonna still keep blitzing, or is somebody gonna be smart enough to be like, you know what, maybe we don't need to blitz as much, or at least send that many people in on third downs, leave the middle open every time, So I'm just praying that that's the case, man, because like you say, man, we damn sure lost our DBU title up under him. It's just it's a completely different defense, man. So
I'm okay with not seeing a blitz that never gets there ever again. Yeah.
For real. Like, it's so funny because, when we had Shannon, we was praying for a blitz, like
yeah.
And it's like, why the universe want to do us like that? We was praying for a blitz, and we got somebody who just blitzed too dang much. You just like, my God, can we just blitz 4 one drive? Can we just blitz 4 and just cover? But yeah, I'm ready to see where this goes. I'm a guy. I'm on the Dan. I still want to see if Dan can turn it around, man. But I'm at the same time. You done made the adjustments. Now I'm like, we're gonna see what you got going. If your head out of it, you better get your head into it now, Dan. Like now, I have my homeboys laughing. You know what I'm saying? I be going to bat behind Dan, but now I'm like, hey, you got me looking crazy. So you got to prove me right. Got to prove me right. So I'm just hoping with this move, man. Going forward, let's say we got the Sanford game and then with Missouri. I'm just hoping that whoever takes control, makes calling the shots going forward, that we can actually see that, okay, yeah, like it's the scheme. We got him out there. As long as we get a new DC in there, we're gonna be good going forward. That's what I want to see. And then the offense line, I don't know how that's gonna work. With the O-line coach going, is it gonna be a major drop off? Is it going to get worse with the coach gone, or do we got another guy sitting there that just know the nice words to say to get these guys fired up? So I'm just ready to see that.
Yeah, I do caution. Major changes for the rest of this year. You're not gonna. You kind of do, quote unquote, have a built-in bye week here with Sanford, so you maybe can change a few things, but it's not going to be wholesale changes. From everything that you've put together back in the spring and fall camp, it's still a system that these guys know. Now, I do think you can simplify it and play a little easier there in that regard, but wholesale changes, going from a completely style of defense, that's not going to happen. It's still going to be the same scheme, same style, but how do you go about approaching that same scheme and same style? How do you play within that, but a different way? So I think, I do caution, don't get too down if it's not a huge change, because I'm just not sure how much you change this late in the season or what's been there. But I do think effort, of course, I think you're still going to want to look at that. And if you can quantify that, if you can look at it, okay, then maybe that's there. But I do think some simplified approach, and when you call blitz, when you don't call blitz, third down defense, I think you could probably look at that and see how it's adjusted as well. There'll be little things you can pick up on, but big wholesale changes, I caution looking out for that.
Yeah, because that you hit on the head for that third down. That's really what I'm gonna be looking for. Like, how do we, if we do get that third and long, are we gonna give up that chunk play, or whoever takes control says, you know what, maybe I might switch it up a little bit. I'm gonna just leave a guy that could drop back. You know what I'm saying? Instead of us just sending the whole damn team in there, maybe I might leave a guy back to cover, help a little bit. And that's all I want to see. And I'd be happy with that. You know what I'm saying? Just long as it ain't looking like that, how it been looking.
Yep. All right, thanks, man. All right, who else is in here? Gary, I think. Hal. If you guys are still on before I move on to somebody else. Oh, there we go. Hal, you there?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
All right, cool. Sorry, first time I've talked on one of your Twitter Spaces. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that we got rid of those two guys, but it's also, a year or two late. I think, like a lot of you guys said, it's kind of seems like something that was forced on Mullen. It's probably either you let these guys go or you go. But I want to see more changes at the end of the year because it kind of, like someone else was saying, it seems like, okay, here's your chance to make some changes, Mullen, and you're probably going to stay next year. But also, who do we think is going to be calling defense now? I guess maybe we'll find out today. But
oh no, that's come out. McGriff is going to be the
okay, good.
For the rest of the season. Yep.
All right, that's who I was hoping for because he's not, like C-Rob and these other guys. They're Grantham light probably.
Yeah.
But definitely get McGriff in there, and I want to see if he plays some of these younger guys too. Get Bogle out of there. I'd love to see Cox off the field. Because he still can't set the edge. It's like, but man, I was all for giving Mullen another year until Saturday night. It just seems like, sure, LSU put AR in, scored a bunch of points, but man, Saturday night, it was like no one knew what they were doing. And he was frustrated. He didn't seem to care. So I think today his demeanor and all that is going to really, we're going to see what it's all about. And, like I said, or like you said, I like that Houston DC reminds me of, Freeman last year at Cincinnati. Chizik's cool. I like him as a DC. Is he going to want to work with Dan?
Yeah, right.
That's a big deal for especially if he's looking for the right job to come back on. Is it going to be working for Mullen for maybe a year and then he's got to do something else? So
yeah, here's the thing about that. Whether it be young guy or experienced guy, Dan Mullen's going to give you this defense. This defense is going to be yours. So that's a big selling point too for some defensive coordinators out there, I think.
That's true. So I guess that's it. We're going to see what happens today, man. And, I'd love to see Knox gone too. Cause,
I don't think the changes are done.
Pierce,
now. I don't know.
Yeah.
C-Rob
I'm
probably.
Yeah. I feel so bad for Pierce, man. I mean, he's a beast and we're getting him like 6 carries a game. He should be getting like 15, 20 carries a game, and you could just see it on his face, man, after that end of the game.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. So that's it for me. Thanks for letting me talk. Appreciate all the stuff you do, man, and all you guys on here.
Thanks, Al. Gary, you in here before I move on? If not, okay. Let me go to C. Bring Ivory in here, and she's been waiting for a while. CT.
Hey, David, this is Gary.
Hey, Gary.
Hey, sorry, my mic was turned off.
Oh, okay. All good.
Hey, just real quick, man, because I got to bounce in here to work. But I was just going to say, are the expectations of the fan base, just even myself included, are they just too much for Florida football? Like, honestly, like since 2009, man, I retired from the Air Force in 2008. We haven't played for a national title or even been in one college playoff or anything. And I've attended a lot of Florida football games, and you keep expecting Florida to take this leap where they're excellent, like an elite team again, and then you got a third string quarterback from St. Francis nobody comes in and makes us look like a bunch of fools. But yet our quarterbacks take 4 years to develop, and then they're out to the NFL. I mean, man, there's just so many things with Florida football, man, where I think our expectation as a fan base needs to just go way down for a while, because I think the kids played hard for Urban Meyer and Steve Spurrier, but those coaches earned those players' respect. I don't think you're ever going to see that with Mullen, because that team quit on him the other night. And when a team quits, how do you get them back? What do you say to them? I mean, hey, coach, our best players are sitting on the bench over here while we're running Malik Davis 100 times. I mean, come on, man. I mean, he's done it for the past 2 years. I mean, I think the running backs coach needs to be fired. If he's the guy that Mullen keeps putting it off on, saying, oh, he tells me who to put in, well, then that guy needs to go because he's clueless. Because obviously your best back is Dameon Pierce. He shredded Georgia. I mean, literally, if they had stuck with him during the game and not did this three-headed monster thing they try to do, it's ridiculous, you know. And I'm sorry, man, I'm a little bit fired up, but I don't think the Hevesy and the Grantham thing is that big a deal because Mullen's still going to call the same power up the middle 400 times a game with the wrong running back, and he's going to try to do it with the wrong running back every time.
Running back. That is my issue. That is my issue, and it's been my issue because Dameon Pierce, I've been watching him for 3 years. He's been beast for the past 3 years, even back in the Michael P. Rhyme era. He dominates the field. He carries 15 to 20 yards every run. And it's like, why he not getting more touches? Why is he not getting more touches? You'll put him in to let him run up the big play and then take him out, and then we losing 3 more yards and got to punt the ball back again. What's going on?
Yeah,
this is
and that's
my main
not
issue. Like, why are you holding Dameon Pierce on the bench? You know what we call him? We call him Mr. Put Me In Coach. That's what we call him. We call him Mr. Put Me In Coach. He's a beast on the field, and I just want to see more touches from him. In these last few games we got, I'm really not sure. If he's not putting Dameon Pierce in there, I don't know what we're going to do.
I agree. I think everybody's been kind of frustrated with that. And that was one of our biggest questions coming into the season. What would happen at running back? Who would get the carries? When some of these young guys get more carries? Well, they're not. Obviously, that's we know that by now. That it's going to be the veterans that are getting the carries, but still split way too much. Now, of course, at the beginning of the season, you couldn't complain too much about how it was working out, but we've seen enough evidence by now to know, Dameon Pierce should be getting the majority of his carries. There's no sense in rotating all these carries. Let him get the early runs, beat up the defense, and if you want to give him a breather or two, that's when Wright and Davis can come in.
Right.
But it should be only breather moments.
Right.
Dameon Pierce, go out there and let him punish the defense.
And we have one more year with Pierce, don't we? And we got one more year.
I mean, he came in 18, so however, 18, 19, 20. I mean, I guess so with 2020 not really counting if he really wanted to come back.
If he really wanted to come back.
But, because last year was a free year for everybody.
No, go ahead.
You don't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect it, but maybe so. But after this year, I wouldn't blame him if he wanted to scoot out of here.
First grade. I definitely wouldn't. I definitely can't wait to see him go pro. I just really hope somebody is really watching him to want to pick him up. I don't want him to be no free agent.
He might get a look. All right. CT, I think you're in here now.
Yes, sir.
All right. Hey, man.
How's it going, brother? You doing all right?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, man. It's a happy day today, man. I'll tell you that. It's a happy day. It's you hate to see people lose their jobs, but this is a business, and
sure.
It's got to happen. And I don't think, like you said, I don't think it's done. I still maintain that I believe this is Dan Mullen's last year. I think he still wants out. I think he will ask out when the season is over. Make no mistake about it, the Grantham firing was not forced, but that Hevesy firing was forced. I can tell you that for a fact. It was definitely forced, and he is, from what I've been told, he's really pissed off about it. And I think the Gator boosters flexed their muscles last night. I think they just had enough, and I'm thankful they did that. You know, a lot of us have wondered, where are you guys at? You know, like, come on, people that make the decisions around here, where are you at? Well, they showed up, and they've had enough of it, and I don't think the changes are done. That's my theory. I'm not saying that it's going to happen. I just believe it's going to happen. What do you think, Dave? Do you think this still could be his last year?
I think there's an opportunity for that. I mean, we'll see how. Yeah. Like I said, you lose another game, I think all bets are off, and actual firing can come from that. More so than him just looking around and wanting to get out of here. I think you collapse and lose to Missouri and FSU, then I don't know how you defend it if you're Florida administration. I don't know how you sell it to a fan base if you're a Florida administration that you're putting faith in to a coach that's completely looks like he's lost it right now. I don't know how you get the players back in that regard too. I do think you mentioned boosters and money talking.
Mm-hmm.
That's why this was sped up. I still don't think any moves, any firings were not going to be made till after the season until the collapse Saturday night.
Yeah,
and that sped it up, and people had enough. And I think people are still at that level, and they want a certain commitment from Dan Mullen that I don't know what he can tell them to make them feel better. I think that's kind of where I'm at with it. I mean, do words fall on deaf ears? Do actions not be are actions that these actions here, actions for the rest of the season, whatever those may be, do those just get ignored because people are already checked out and want to move on? I'm not so sure what Dan Mullen can do now. Look, these moves, of course, I think win some of the fan base back, build some goodwill, but the prevailing message has been too little, too late.
Yeah, there's no question.
That's the message I've seen more so than not. It's not hallelujah like you thought it would have been. Like if this would have happened in a year ago, if this would have happened in December, you would have had a whole lot of elation and a whole lot of hallelujah. It's happening.
Yeah.
Now it's just kind of okay. Well, this is something that should have happened already.
Yeah, I think if Hevesy had not been fired, I think we could say, okay, Dan was kind of pushed into doing this, with getting Grantham out. But when Hevesy was the big shocker. I mean, you and I have talked. We had heard rumblings, that Hevesy could be gone after this year, and then we were like, yeah, but we'll believe that when we see it, right?
Right.
And when it happens, you're just like, wow. Like I was like Nick Delatorre. I was shocked when it happened.
And somebody brings this point up to me. I'm talking to somebody on Twitter DMs at the same time, and it's like, look, Florida, with these kind of moves here, and if this is kind of how it stands and where it goes, and to finish this season, is Florida putting themselves in a Clay Helton USC situation?
That's a good question.
You think a move should probably be made, but you don't do it, and then it's just a lost cause. And with that schedule we talk about next year, 4 games into the season next year. Okay, well, this is a move we should have made last year, kind of like defensive coordinator hiring Grantham. Okay, it's a move we should have made last year.
Yeah.
But here we go. Now, we'll make it now. And you've pretty much wasted a year.
He could have built so much goodwill if he'd have fired Grantham last year.
Yeah.
And he really hurt himself.
I mean, first of all, if the season plays out the same way as it has, you may not have an LSU loss. You may not have a South Carolina loss.
No. A competent defensive coordinator does not give up 13 counter plays, in one game. But I want to say though, I mean, I want Dan Mullen to succeed. I want him to, and I'm not one of these just anti-Mullen people. I really I do want him to succeed. But the question is, does he want to succeed? And I feel like he checked out the minute the NFL turned him down. And I know the Jets said no. And I mean, I have to admit, my ego would take a hit too if I was a coach and the Jets told me no. But, you know what I'm saying? So, but at the same time, I agree with most of the sentiment out there. I think it's just too little too late. And I think it's gotten so toxic at Florida when the boosters hardly ever get in. I mean, the big guys don't ever really get involved too much at this point in the game. They usually wait till later. For them to step in like they did speaks volumes to me.
Right.
As to the toxicity of the situation. So I really believe what's going to end up happening. I'm going to maintain it. I think he's going to ask to be let go of his contract. And I just think because the Hevesy firing to me is the signal that he's going to leave, in my opinion, because I think he got forced to do something he did not want to do. I think he and Hevesy's relationship, I believe, has already gone down the tubes. I think it's not what it used to be. Based on and shout out to, Bob Redmond on 24/7. He went out there and really got some good information put out there. For talking about, Strickland getting into it with Mullen in the tunnel at South Carolina and all that stuff. And I totally believe that's true. I totally believe that. I've known Bob. I know of Bob, for a long time, and I know he's very credible. And he don't put stuff out there like that just to put it out there. So I just think this is just the beginning. I think Gator fans need to be ready, and I think regardless of how these games turn out, I just think there's a lot more coming. And
I think so too. And we'll see the degree of it. And if it ends up like you say with Mullen.
Yeah, if he wants to stay, I want him to be successful. If he doesn't want to stay, get him out. So,
that's pretty much the gist of it. Yep. Thanks, CT.
All right, Dave. Appreciate it,
before I get out of here. Thanks, man.
Go Gators.
Go Gators. All right. North Florida's finest. I think you're in here. If you're still here.
Yeah, good morning, Dave.
There we go. Good morning.
With what y'all just said, it kind of changed what I was going to ask. Watching that South Carolina game, as crappy as it was, I never dreamed that. If those changes were forced, I just didn't think that Mullen would be around after how terrible that game was. But if he does stay, do you think we may pursue Phil Troutwine for offensive line coach? And maybe if we get a new defensive coordinator, maybe we can actually recruit a true linebacker again. That's about.
I think Troutwine's going to be the hot. Yeah, Troutwine's going to be the hot name, the name that comes up the most for offensive line, of course, at Penn State, recruits well, former player at Florida. That's going to be the hot name there. So I think we need to see what happens with James Franklin at Penn State to see if that move happens and if Troutwine would go there or try to have a conversation with Mullen about coming to Florida and taking over for offensive line coach. So that's pretty, that's going to be the name that's thrown out there the most everybody's looking at right now. There'll be some other ones, of course, the names that get thrown out there, but it's going to, right now, for most of Gator Nation, it's going to start and end right there and see what happens with him. It'd be nice to have a former Gator on staff that gets it and knows what to do and already recruits well coming in. So,
but also these changes, like coaching, isn't going to change anything with the personnel we have, and I don't think it's going to address anything that. As far as Mullen's recruiting, that's one of the biggest issues I think at Florida right now is just the roster. It just isn't, you're not going to compete with the big boys in the SEC. And
that's where I've lost my hope, man. That's kind of where I stand too. Yeah. Tying everything into what we saw this year, and then tying it in with that criticism that I've always put out there. That's kind of why it's, I fell off the cliff. This past Saturday, I think once you lose the players and you tie that in to what we've seen on the field this year, and you tie it in ultimately to recruiting, I don't know where the hope is. I don't know where the light at the end of the tunnel is, and it's going to have to change. But Dan Mullen's history says that part will not change, and if it does, it's a huge turn of events. But also, what's the timeline of that? When do we see the payoff? If Dan Mullen's going to change his recruiting. First, he's got to change himself. Then he's got to change his recruiting approach. Then he's got to bring in a whole lot of staff that does it as well. We've seen fast turnarounds in college football. Dan Mullen did it himself. Now, was recruiting the roster was in okay shape. taking over for Jim McElwain. It wasn't Florida standards, but it was in okay shape. We saw the payoff in that when Dan Mullen gets those players and develop those players. But trying to turn it around now when Alabama's rolling, Georgia's rolling, Texas and Oklahoma's on the way in. Texas A&M recruits well. Auburn, LSU recruit at the same level. What is the timeline that if you are going to change, when does that pay off? And is that fast enough for everybody? I'm not so sure it will be.
By the way, Dave, if you don't mind me interjecting here for a minute, I just wanted to let you know that UF just announced that Christian Robinson will be the defensive play caller for the rest of the season.
Oh, okay. So that was the reports yesterday were McGriff. So
yeah. Okay. So the guy that can't teach his linebackers to fill gaps is going to be the play caller. That's great. Okay, I'm out.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Wonderful.
I guess. I mean, I'm going to try and connect the dots there myself. It's quote unquote his scheme too. Of course, if it's Todd Grantham's scheme, he knows it as well. But yeah, that's kind of surprising with what was coming out yesterday. But there we go. CT, where'd you hear that at or see it at? I'm not. Since I'm doing this, I'm not.
I tell you what, it's very disappointing. I'll tell you that. The linebackers are poorly coached. We've talked about that all year. And to have the guy that's doing that is now calling the plays, it tells me the defense is not going to change at all in these 3 games. Now, maybe some of the way they go about things will change. Because, if I'm Christian Robinson, I'm thinking, gosh, I'm getting an opportunity that I probably don't even deserve. And I'm going to try to make the best of it, So he may try to do a few things that make himself look good. I don't know. But it's very disappointing. And it also kind of tells me that Florida probably said, okay, well, we got rid of Grantham. So, you can choose whoever you want for the next 3 games,
Yeah.
So that's my take on it. But, I mean, I know.
Yeah, there it is. Okay, I just got the email. Yeah, I just got the email from Florida. Linebackers coach Christian Robinson will assume defensive play calling duties while Paul Pasqualoni, let me see. Well, this email is not formatted right. While Paul Pasqualoni, special assistant to the head coach, will play an on-field role for the remaining of the season.
Yeah. Well, hopefully he can coach linebackers. Maybe we'll look better. So,
yeah.
So, yeah, it's. I mean, it is what it is at this point. I mean, I'm disappointed, but I'm not upset about it because we got 3 games left, and then I think the wholesale changes come. So.
All right. Well, yeah. Thanks for throwing that out there, and that was with the. All right. I know a lot of people are already waiting. I am going to have to call it here. Been going on for well over an hour now. We'll do another one Friday of this week, maybe another one. I know all the news is kind of fast and flowing right now. I may do another one. I know this one was kind of busy. A lot of people sitting here waiting and listening. Thank you so much. I know sometimes these things are all over the place with the chats here on Monday morning, whether you're on your way to work or sitting at work or at home, whatever, however you do it. But everybody, thanks so much for hopping in here, and we'll do it again on Friday for sure of this week. Maybe another one thrown in. I'll see. But a lot of news. Follow along. We'll be there. We'll be following along all week. Especially today, Dan Mullen's press conference. We'll get his response to all of these moves being made. But latest right there, Christian Robinson will take over defensive play calling duties for the rest of the season. So, all right, there we go. Gators Breakdown, Twitter Spaces, chat, letting you guys sound off on the big news of Todd Grantham and John Hevesy being let go from the University of Florida. All right, check out Gators Breakdown tonight. Will Miles and I will be on there. We'll discuss all this news today, and sure, Will and I get together. It'll be a lot of fun talking about this. So, all right, everybody, I will see you on the next episode of Gators Breakdown.